Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. We are here from Ashton, the Climate Solutions charity, and we run the Let's Go Zero campaign. And this webinar is part of the London Climate Action Week series of events going on across London, both in person and virtually, all week long. So really delighted that you can join us today. If you're not familiar with the Let's Go Zero campaign, it's a campaign for all schools, colleges and nurseries across the UK to sign up to show their ambition to be zero carbon by 2030. There'll be some more details at the end about that if you're interested. And welcome to those of you who are watching live and also those that are watching this recorded as well. It's really brilliant to have you here and we have some great guests for you. So I'm going to pass you now over to Suzanne. Suzanne is going to look after you and chair this webinar for the afternoon.
Amazing, thanks Alex. So I'm Suzanne, I'm the Let's Go Zero project coordinator. Thank you so much for joining us today, which is our final webinar for this school year, this series, and it's part of London Climate Action Week, which is amazing to be involved. But we will recommence our webinar series in September, so do keep an eye out for those. And we've got our previous webinars up on our website for you to go and watch in your own time. All, on various subjects, from getting started on your climate action journey to saving energy to governance. So thank you so much for joining us today. We've got a couple of amazing speakers today. I'm really happy to introduce them. So we've got Janet Reeve who's the Healthy Schools Coordinator from Bishop Wood Junior, and Cheryl Lyddon, our Programme Manager for Modeshift Stars. So please do, we've got plenty of time for questions. Please do ask as many questions as you have using the Q&A box in the Zoom link. Now before I really introduce you and hand over to Janet, who will be our first speaker, I wanted to talk to you about why making sustainable travel the norm is so important, and some of the things that schools are already doing, some ideas that you can take away from this webinar, but there'll be so much more detail as we've got Janet and Cheryl to speak. So tackling emissions from travel is not only important to reducing your own school's carbon emissions, but it also improves the air quality at the school gates. It improves air quality in your local communities by reducing that school run traffic that happens every morning and every afternoons. And Clean Air Day was only a couple of weeks ago, and it really, really highlights the importance of tackling air pollution in the UK. One of our coalition members of Let's Go Zero stated that air quality and air pollution is an issue for all schools across the UK, no matter where, if you're rural or an urban inner city school. Apart from if you're up in the Highlands in Scotland, where the air is pretty clean and clear, but it's an issue for all schools across the UK. So air pollution causes a huge amount of health problems, from asthma to also up to over 30,000 early deaths every year. So it's extremely important how we should be engaging with our students, our parents, our staff about reducing those emissions and encouraging active and sustainable travel. It's significantly more dangerous to young people and children as well, because they are developing. So as schools, we have a really important role to tackle this issue. So what schools are doing up and down the country, whether they're rural or inner city, is really encouraging. Schools are creating active travel plans. One school, Shorelands Academy Secondary up in Glasgow, is encouraging parents to Zoom in or have team meetings online for their parents' evenings, just to discourage that travel in the first place. They're implementing school streets. So Dalmain Primary in London, in Lewisham, where they're right next to the South Circular, which is an extremely busy road, has worked with their local authority to put in a school street, which means that at school drop-off and pick-up times, the street directly in front of the school is closed for those hours. So it doesn't allow any parents to drop kids off right outside the school gates. It limits vehicles, and it improves the safety right outside the school gate, as well as improves the air quality outside. They also, you know, you can talk to local authorities and have cycle confidence training for staff and students to learn about road safety and gain that confidence. They invest in bike and scooter storages to show that if they do scoot or bike to school, then their items will be safe. And, you know, if you are in a rural area, as some schools are, they introduce park and ride schemes where they encourage parents to park, you know, a 5-minute walk away from the school and walk in with their children. And lift sharing, of course, and so much more. But I would really like you to hear firsthand from one of our very own Let's Go Zero schools who have been working on this journey. So Janet Reeve is our Healthy Schools Coordinator from Bishopwood Junior. She's been a teacher there for 24 years and was tasked with creating the school's travel plan 12 years ago. And last year, Bishopwood Primary was Modeshift Star's Primary School of the Year. And she is going to talk about the process that she believes makes a successful travel plan. So Janet, I'd like to invite you to the floor, and I'll stop sharing my screen.
Hi, thank you very much. Hi, nice to see everybody. I'm grateful to be invited to represent Bishopwood School. We are proud of what we've done and what we're still doing. So I'm just going to, as I say, share some of the process that we've been through and are still going through to make a successful travel plan. So give me while I just get my screen up. It's a bit laboured, but I'll get there. I'm just going to share a PowerPoint with you. Wait a second. Okay, I say thank you for inviting me, and I hope this is helpful. I think step one, I would say gather a team. When I first started, I had governors working with me, parents working with me, and another teacher. As time goes on, it sort of you know, changes, people come and go, but to have a team around you and not be the sole person who's kind of trying desperately to get this thing off the ground is really important. So I would say that is the very first thing to do. So staff and or parents and or governors. Step two, sign up to Modeshift Stars. It didn't exist when we first started, but certainly it's added so much to the work that we do. It gives you signposts, loads of ideas for initiatives, loads of resources to help you, and you'll probably hear more about that later. And obviously it has reward schemes, so it gives the school a chance to work towards something and to celebrate achievements. Step three, the baselines that we did, is obviously a hands up survey of how the children come to school now, and survey the parents. That was really important for us because I think it was probably about 60% active travel to school when we first started. So we wanted to know why 40% of the children were coming unsustainably. We are a small town and most children, we believed, possibly could get there actively. So we want to know why they were not. So obviously these things would help with your baseline. From those baselines, our early targets way back then were increase the active travel percentage, and we started by establishing road safety and cycle training supported by the county council, installing bike and scooter storage, which actually the bike storage, we got the secondary school to help design it, and we established a road crossing with the help of the infant school and a lot of help from passionate parents on a road that, because the children had no way of crossing, parents felt they wouldn't let them go to school by themselves. And we also wanted to stop parents using the school driveway, which they did, even though we asked them not to. You, of course, from that point, consider your own setting. It's going to change. That's where we are at the top. you might be more of a rural setting, you might be a busier city setting. So you've got to think what's in place already. As I said, road crossings was an issue for us. A walking bus, we looked at that, but because we're a junior school, actually it wasn't called for so much because a lot of our children can walk by themselves. I think in an infant school setting, that might be something that would be viable. Park and stride is a big thing in our school, more about that later. And school gates were an issue for us, as I said, but we had to work on that one. Yeah, so consider your setting. Step 4, establish active travel ambassadors. Now we did this, it was an idea from Modeshift. We've taken it on for the last 5 years probably, and it's made a huge difference. Engagement of the children, because it's children giving ideas that they know other children would like. So it is year 5, so that the year 6s, you know, have a lot on during their year. So we think year 5 is best. They show a PowerPoint. The outgoing ATA show a PowerPoint to all year 5s. The children fill in application forms of why they think they'd be a good active travel ambassador, and they're chosen by the outgoing ATAs. They meet, plan initiatives, and generally they're positive, celebratory, reward-based and fun. So we have lots of competitions, pictures here, designer hat on, that was for Be Bright, Be Seen campaign. We always have a walk school week activity, and in this corner, it's the children with it was actually World Book Day, that's why they're dressed a bit strange, but they're with the local police officers to go around the town looking for places to park and stride from. Always sign up. There are loads of national initiatives out there. It's already been mentioned, Clean Air Day, that was in June this year, but there's also Walk School Weeks, lots of resources. Be Bright, Be Seen in the winter term, Happy Earth Day, what used to be called the Big Pedal is now Big Walk and Wheel. Loads of resources come with these and lots of incentives too. It's important to reach out to the community. We've had support from eco groups, climate emergency groups in the community. We sought help on Facebook, and we've got people in as a result of that. We had a stall up at the climate emergency. So it's nice to connect with the community, share what we're doing, get help. Really important to us, these off timetable weeks. We have a Healthy Schools Week every year. It's in place now in just before the October half term, and that's when the cycle training can happen in year 6, groups of 6 children going out. It doesn't matter if your timetable's a bit more unusual that week, it doesn't upset anyone. The road safety trainings that week. We have scooter training as well. We do things like bikers breakfast, scooter scrambles, all less of a negative impact by messing up the curriculum, because the whole week is to do with things to do with healthy schools. So I think that's really a positive way to do it. Always communicate with parents. Obviously, we mentioned things in the weekly newsletter. We send specific letters about the specific initiatives, and we pop things on social media as often as we can. Always be visible, bright, accessible displays, messages and assemblies, updates in newsletters. I think sometimes the teachers always expect me to have a message in assembly because there always seems to be something I need to share. But we're lucky enough to have a board in our dining room, so the children will pass it on the way to lunch every day, and the active travel ambassadors are able to change that quite often. Magpie ideas from other schools. There's lovely ideas, simple, about the golden padlock. The active travel ambassadors put it on a bike a week, not so the bike can't actually move, but somewhere on the bike, and they get a little prize for bringing their bike in. We do that every Friday. And from Modeshift, they've got lots of resources now. One of them is the 10-day active challenge, with lots of ideas for things to do over a 10-day period. And keep an eye out for opportunities. During the year, every class goes swimming. It's the other side of town, they have to walk there. So each class does a road safety lesson and here's Arthur looking at the screen to tell us about places that are unsafe on the journey. And finally, react to the data. Our latest data suggested that a percentage of the lower school, particularly, were driving all the way to school because they lived a long way away. we did a quick park and stride initiative, well, quick, it was over about a 3-week period, park and stride initiative aimed to take that excuse away. So first of all, we asked children where they park and stride from already, if they did, and put that on a map. Then the active travel ambassadors went around the town with the police officers to find suitable places to park and stride from about 5 minutes away, and they have the stickers. There's one of the children holding a sticker there that we put on in the places that they chose. We made a map to show where these were, and they did an assembly, and a map was sent home to the parents. So the excuse was taken away. If they live too far away, they can park and stride to school. And there was a pledge that the parents, if they wanted to, could sign, and they'd get a sticker for their car if they did so. Yeah, so finally, I just love this post that Lily and Francesca did, talking about stepping into control. We want clean air. And one of the ways we can do it is by coming to school actively. I'm just going to show a video that the children made just before we got the award last year from Modeshift. So excuse me while I just find this video, just a couple of minutes long, and it just shows that actually it is about fun and enjoyment. The children have a lot of fun working on active travel initiatives.
The Bishopwood School. We are the ATAs. We promote green travel. You show for our initiative.
It's not easy being green. Having to spend its day in the color of the leaves, when it could be nicer being red, yellow or gold.
I'm going to school. We do.
Like that. It's not easy being green.
We take part in the big pedal.
You seem to blend in with so many
And be
ordinary things. People tend to pass you by because you're not standing out like sparkles in the water, stars in the sky. But green's the color of spring. Oh, yeah.
Hello, we're from Year 5. In Walk to School Week, we upped our percentage from 91% to 95%. And for 3 days, we were 100%. Yay! And for our award, we get a water font. We set a challenge on Clean Air Day.
It could make you wonder why, wonder why. Yeah, green, it'll do fine. And it's what I wanna be.
Walk to school so we can chat with our friends. Yeah, I love sausages. No cheese. We scoot 'cause it's fun!
Green can be big, like an ocean or run, important like a mountain, a tall like a tree, and when green is all there is to be,
Watching fly.
it could make you wonder why, but why, wonder why.
Sorry, I don't know why that's not stopping. Okay, yes, so I hope you didn't mind me sharing that video, but it just shows what fun the children are having doing some of these initiatives. So yeah, I hope it's given you some ideas.
Janet, thank you so much. That was absolutely amazing. And I loved the way you shared that video, actually, because it really did bring the voices of the students who are taking on these initiatives into our webinar, which was absolutely fantastic. If anyone does have any questions for Janet, please do drop them in the Q&A chat box. We do have a couple that have come through. So Janet, if you don't mind, I'm going to go right ahead and jump right in. So our first question is, obviously the children have loved it, which is incredible, but at the start, did you have any groups, so the school governors or parents or maybe some of the staff that were against getting active, and how did you overcome this?
I don't think so. I think it was a kind of gentle approach. So we tried to do things that were incentive-based, competitions, rewards, that kind of thing, to make it positive rather than you will not do this. So I suppose some of the tricky parts was parents driving up to the school gates. That was the one where it could get quite tricky because it was really hard to persuade parents not to do this. It had me sort of standing there at the end of the gate saying, don't come in. And that was tricky. But see, now with automated gates and things like that, that's not an issue. I'd say that was the only thing that I felt was really quite, negative. But everything else, I think we did it softly. And because of that, we didn't really have any issues.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And have you said you've got quite passionate parents. Do they come along and support on these event days that you've got?
Yeah, I mean, things like with the bikers breakfast, we always need help with parents. I'm doing a cycling club at the moment and a parent comes and helps with that. So we've got a lot of active parents who will come and help us promote these things. Yeah, so we are supported a lot in these things. Yeah, so we've got more people for us than against us, and it's shown by our high active travel percentage that parents are getting the message, and it's become the norm for a lot of the children now. So that's excellent.
No, that's incredible. And I really liked your idea of when you realized that actually due to COVID there was a setback of parents driving instead, and then you ran that competition week of right, let's get active, let's,
yeah,
and then you had 100% on a few days, which is just fantastic.
Yeah. I must admit, I mean, I've obviously been at the school for a long time, and the staff come and go, but they're amazing. And sometimes I think, I'm saying, all right, it's another walk to school week or something like this, and I'm expecting them to do this, that and the other, but they all do it, which is fantastic. And I don't know whether it'd be like that at every school, but certainly I've got the support of our staff, which I'm really grateful for.
Yeah, no, incredible. And what is your next big project that you're working on? I know the school is kind of coming to a close with the summer holidays, but what is
I think it was interesting actually, because there was one day when I was a bit late to school because I was taking my father to the doctor, so I was in the car and I saw how far one child was walking to school. I passed her and I suddenly thought, so the next thing is to find how far some children actually walk to inspire the rest, because some of them do come from quite a long way away. And there she was going along with her mum, chatting away, and it was lovely to see. So I think that's the next thing. We're going to celebrate that, get the map back up on the wall and celebrate how far children come actively to school.
Yeah. Oh no, that sounds absolutely fantastic. That really does. I've got one final question for you before I introduce Cheryl. So, because obviously the students are really involved, what have you heard them say what they enjoy the most about being an active travel officer, or what they enjoy the most about active and sustainable travel and all the different projects that you've got going?
I don't know. I think the off timetable things they love. They like things that that they would get rewards for, I suppose. I think the active travel ambassadors just get a real buzz from making a difference. They write letters to parents. That makes them feel empowered. They do assemblies, so they're really proud of themselves. We've had to do, because of COVID, we've had to do a few early morning meetings. We've had to do more meetings when they're on Zoom, but they're up for everything. So they're really proud of themselves, I think. And, the children, a lot of the time, because we've come so far, we are celebrating how brilliant they all are. So they do feel good. And I think if you ask them, they'd know why coming to school actively is important.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. Thank you so much, Janet. Thank you for answering my questions. I'm now going to invite Cheryl to come and present, but before I do, please do everyone remember the Q&A box is there for you to ask any questions, and Janet will be here till the end. So please do, if you think of any questions you want to ask Janet specifically, do ask them, because we'll have time at the end too. So I want to hand over to Cheryl Ford Lyddon now, who recently joined Modeshift as STARS project manager, where she is now overseeing STARS education, STARS business and STARS community. And prior to this new role, she has worked for Newcastle City Council for 20 years, heading up the road safety team and school travel planning. So very knowledgeable. Please do ask questions, and Cheryl, I'm going to hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Let me see if I can share my screen. Can everybody see that?
Not yet.
Not yet. I'm not very good with technology, folks. Please bear with me. How's that?
Yeah, perfect.
That's better. That's great. Thank you, everybody. Yes, hello. My name is Cheryl Ford and I'm the STARS program manager, a role I'm just getting used to. Just started last Monday, so it is quite a change and a bit of a baptism of fire, but it is great and it's really good fun. And I'm here to talk to you today about Modeshift STARS, the Centre of Excellence for the Delivery of Effective Travel Plans. And thank you so much to Janet, because honestly the work that they've done at their school is phenomenal, and you'll see the links and the integration between the Modeshift STARS and what Janet's school have done, and just you'll be able to see that as I go through my slides. So I wanted to start off with what is happening at schools in England. So this is where we're at the moment. So this is a 22-year worth of travel data that we've got, and it's come from the school census. So it's data that really gives us a good picture of what has gone on in the past. And obviously we're collecting data from 2018 up to 2022, and we will have that as well. But I wanted to give you a snapshot of this, because I feel as though it does give you a real picture of what's happening. So the top line, the dark blue, that is the travel statistics for walking. So they're the percentage of children who are traveling by walking to and from school. So they're quite positive. They're in their 40s all the way through the last 22 years. And they haven't really dipped that much. But what we have actually seen is that the car use, which is the grey line just underneath it, that there was a bit of a gap there originally way back in 1995, 97, and that gap is closing. Slowly, surely, it's getting closer and closer. So we would like those lines to be quite separate, quite different, and they seem to be getting a little bit more aligned as time goes on. The light blue that you can see just below that is the local bus service, and that again is pretty consistent over the last 22 years. And again, something that we would like to see go up in an ideal world, but at the moment it's quite, around about 15%, 13%, something akin to that over the last 20 odd years. The one that you can just see peeking out the top there is the private bus in yellow. Again, very consistent, but still quite low levels. Surface rail is there in the green, and just tucked behind that, which you can barely see, is cycling bicycles. And obviously that's something that we are very keen to see a lot higher than where we're currently at. The baseline data has not been as high as we would like in that situation. So they are all the kind of the current picture. This is the challenge, as it were. Overall, it shows that 8.2 journeys of car journeys are taken under 0.25 miles, a quarter of a mile, and that accounts for 92,000 journeys per day across England. I have to reiterate per day because even I was surprised when I read that one. 21.1% journeys, that's 238,000 car journeys are made between 0.25 and 0.5 miles per day. And so collectively, that's 330,000 car trips every day are under half a mile. And that's the challenge. That's what we're trying to overcome. These are not long journeys. These are short journeys. So how can we do something to affect that? My next slide shows what is Modeshift Stars, who are we, what do we do? We are a leading organisation in sustainable travel. Modeshift aims to be the centre of excellence for the promotion of sustainable travel choices in education, workplace and community settings by raising the standards of industry delivery. And this includes establishing a standard and level of implementation for travel plans, sharing best practice on the provision of travel choice information, and recognising excellence in the delivery of sustainable travel initiatives in schools and workplaces. And I think from Janet's talk, you can see that's the kind of thing that we work towards and strive towards, and they've done incredibly well. And they are the kind of school that we want to use as an exemplary school, that we will be saying, look, this is what you can achieve. And they've got that recognition, they've got those promotions, they've got those stars, and it's making a big difference, and it can make a big difference. And the three kinds of Modeshift Stars accreditation in education, business and community organisations, and they've all demonstrated excellence in supporting walking, cycling and other forms of sustainable travel by developing and implementing an effective travel plan. And that effective bit, that is the key here. It is not a tick box exercise. Modeshift Stars really isn't. And what it looks for is to do things that are meaningful, have an impact, and have the modal shift, the active travel and sustainable travel on the up and unsustainable travel, car use, on the way down. That's what the effective travel plan will help us to achieve. So why do we have travel plans? Well, we have population-wide strategies for travel behaviour change that can be applied to any setting, whether they be education, business or community. It includes the evidence and rationale to secure commitment and funding to support sustainable travel. So we want everybody to buy into this. And then if we all buy into it and we can demonstrate what we're doing, then we're going to attract funding to support our sustainable development. We want effective travel plans that are delivered and they do bring about change in travel behaviour. We want to see those changes, we want to see what's happening, and by doing an effective travel plan, and as I said before, we can actually get there. What's going on? Why are we picking on schools? Well, there are 24,000 schools in England, that's 8.74 million pupils and 900,000 teaching staff. We're not picking on them. They are in a perfect group organisation arrangement to actually get in there and do effective travel planning. So school travel planning impacts around 10 million people. That's 18% of the population. By reaching schools, we can make such an impact if we can get all those schools on board. This was quite an interesting stat. I had a look at this one and I was quite curious, but this shows the overall impact of how school, the journey to and from school impacts on families. It's not just pupils, it is a bigger picture. So back in 2013, there were 7.7 million families with dependent children in the UK. Targeting school affects approximately 20 to 25 million when taking into account parents, guardians, family members and the wider school community. So it's really important that it's not just the pupils, it's everybody who is affected by the school journey. So in effect, 36 to 45% of the entire population is affected by the school journey. This is why we're targeting schools. What's lovely about STARS is it's very much a cycle of activities and events and things that you do to keep things moving on and get your travel plan where you want it to be and continue it as an ongoing process. So originally you set up your STARS team, you agree and state your aims. What is it that you want to do? What are your aims of this travel plan? You assess your current travel and transport situation. What exactly is going on outside your school? How do your pupils travel? How do your staff travel? And what are the barriers affecting them? Define what your objectives and your targets are. What is it that you want to actually get out of this? And develop and implement your action plan. And it can be a list of all kinds of different things, many of which Janet demonstrated before. And they really make a difference if you can list those, set timescales, set who is responsible for that and how that will be taken forward. There are 5 levels of accreditation. They go from green, bronze, silver, gold and platinum. And those schools that get platinum really are the top of the league and they are amazing. But a lot of schools very easily, in my experience, particularly with primary schools, can get green, bronze and silver without too much extra hard work. They're already really committed, a lot of schools, and already actively involved in travel planning. So it's quite easy for those schools to get those kind of accreditation levels. And this isn't something that you do once and it goes away. There's a monitoring, refresh and maintain and progress process. So it goes round and round with your hands up surveys. So when you achieve some of your targets, you can add new ones and then you look at the process again. And it's a continual improvement to make your transport active travel plan and make generally the transport modes to and from your school a lot better. How do we do this? We provide information. You make sure people know what's going on. You make sure people know what opportunities are there for you, what the bus timetables are, where the park and strides maps are, how far it is from people's homes to school. It's only a 5-10 minute walking zones. Provide people with information and they're more likely to be able to make that modal shift towards sustainable forms of travel, just like Janet did in her school. You provide the infrastructure. If there's not something in place, what is it that you need? Do you need 20-mile-an-hour zones? Do you need new crossings outside your school? Is there a lack of cycle storage or scooter storage? These are all the things we need to think about to make active travel, sustainable travel more positive for that particular school. We need to look into that too. We can provide incentives. You can have bike at breakfasts, you can have road closure days, you can have doctor bike when they come and fix your bike, you can do walking trips, you can get actors in to lead walks and do challenges. There are so many things that can be done and they can be made to fit with your school and your school needs. And I think that is something that is so personal and makes it very engaging and locally relevant to your school. Really important stuff. We can do new skills, you know, give help with training and things like that. Now, bike ability training, for those of you who don't know, is national standard cycle training, a really brilliant course that is delivered by many local authorities and partners up and down the country. And it really gives children, young people, that opportunity to learn to ride, to improve their cycle skills and ultimately become independent travellers by bicycle. I think it's an amazing course and I'm a massive advocate of it. And on that other picture slide, there is a picture of children doing child pedestrian training. And again, a massive way to upskill children for independent travel is to teach them how to stay safe when they're out and about. And certainly as children progress from primary school level up to secondary school level, it's really important that they have got those skills to travel independently and safely. What are the barriers to unsustainable travels? What do we need to do to make it, put people off driving? Well, school streets, again, we've touched on this, a massive programme, something that a lot of local authorities up and down the country are implementing at the moment, is to close the road between key times of the day, the start and the end of the school day, to school traffic. Let's reduce the congestion outside the school gates, improves air quality, improves road safety, makes the whole environment feel better and safer. And the aim of it is to offer people the chance to use alternative forms of transport, to walk, to cycle where possible, or to spread that journey out, park further away and then walk in the rest of the journey into school. So again, really useful tool that is quite widespread now and something that a lot of people are moving towards. And this slide just kind of shows our Modeshift stars statistics. Where are we at? What are we actually achieving? So what we've actually seen is that those schools who are accredited, we're actually seeing a decrease in the number of car journeys to and from school of about 9%. And for those schools who've got silver or gold accreditation, we're actually seeing a 22.2% decrease in the number of school journeys. So we're seeing the trends coming down. So Modeshift stars and effective travel planning is working. On Gold Star schools, we're actually seeing increases in cycling levels. So that graph I showed you at the very beginning of our chat is very indicative of where we want to go. So we're seeing those increases coming up. And again, Modeshift stars can help us get there. We're also seeing an increase in the number of children walking to and from schools. And again, with those schools who are accredited, the increase in walking goes up, not as dramatically as cycling, but remember it was already quite high anyway, but those little creeping up, that's perfect, exactly what we're looking for. And ultimately those silver and gold level star schools saw their walking increase up 4.7%. So the higher up the accreditation process you go, the more likely it is to achieve active and sustainable travel. So we've got evidence that proves that it can work. And what's next for us? And again, we've touched on this a little bit already, but certainly our brand new programme that we are just launching, and we're working with several local authorities and regions in England, is the Active Travel Ambassador programme. And we've got 4,000 schools signed up in England to STARS, but only 345 of them, that's 8.6%, are actually secondary schools. So our new programme, Active Travel Ambassador, that we're just launching at the moment, is aimed at secondary school pupils. The programme provides skills for engages children who are 11 to 16 years old, and hopefully gives them the confidence and skills to address transport issues affecting their school community. We have ATA coordinators, and we've got them across the country, and with the school staff, we will support the ATA teams to research and develop behavioural change campaigns focusing on active travel and road safety. And students get to upskill, they get to learn things like project management, presenting and public speaking, leadership, marketing and promotion, and collecting and analysing data. So really important skills that they'll be able to take into their future lives, whether they're students or whether they go into the workplace. So at the moment, how it works is that schools recruit between 6 and 12 students who can deliver campaigns to their peers across the entire academic year. The ATA coordinator delivers around 6 sessions to the students over the year, and there are a number of additional self-led sessions, so kind of like homework that the ATAs will take on board. And ultimately, this culminates in the delivery of the final campaign, like a Dragon's Den kind of scenario, which could include themed assemblies, walking and cycling competitions, and community events. So it's something that is very much driven by the students, developed by the students with the guidance of the coordinator. What are the benefits? Well, we'll be addressing the travel and transport issues that are experienced outside of their school, and we can tackle them effectively. We can help the students to learn new skills to pass on to their peers and leave a legacy in their school community. The ATA programme counts towards Modeshift Stars accreditation, which we've already seen can have a significant impact on active travel and sustainable travel. And the students and staff have the opportunity to build links with transport professionals and organisations, so it draws in the wider community to support the school, and those links are being built all the time, which can only benefit students. And that's me done. I'm sorry if that was a bit quick. I hope I didn't talk too quickly, but if anybody's got any questions, I'd be delighted to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. That was really, really interesting, really informative, and I think it helps to put it in a wider context as well. And I love seeing all the stats and the figures that you've gained over the past 20 years. But even, you know, when schools do engage with active travel and Modeshift Stars, that it's proven that, you know, they do become more active, they cycle more, they walk more, and use the cars less. So it's really very positive to see that.
It's very refreshing, and I think certainly for me, coming from a local authority perspective, I could see it at a local level, but to see it nationally and see the statistics, how the output has been, it's really encouraging. It's quite inspiring, actually.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
We have had some questions come in, but please, everyone watching, feel free to ask, to drop down questions as we talk. So one which might be quite tricky to answer that's come in is, how can this be replicated internationally in different countries? How would you advise someone to go about doing that?
That is a very tricky question, and I think I would probably have to speak to my manager to have that conversation, because I think that is something that we have touched on. We have gone into Europe and done a little bit of work over there. It's interesting to see how that would work, but I mean, fundamentally, working with a school, if there's a committed team within a school, they can start looking at things like how pupils travel, how staff travel, what do they want to, are the outcomes that they want to achieve from this, and they can start setting it up. And I think Modeshift Stars and the way the system is set up, it can be applied across to other countries. I think the principles are the same, it's just what the governance is behind that and how it be implemented that would perhaps be different.
Amazing, yeah, thank you. I know it's very each school is so unique in their own, you know, problems with in terms of catchment areas, or maybe they're very rural, or so you kind of need to take these resources and these learnings and apply it into your own unique setting.
And one size won't fit all, as you quite rightly say. In all my years of working in this industry, I've never met two schools that are aligned, you know, for the same issues and the same layouts, simply because they're not. Everybody's demographic is entirely different.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I would encourage people to go and have a look at Modeshift Stars website, look at, you know, what they suggest, do a hands up survey. But there's also loads of free resources on a platform called Transform Our World, which also has amazing resources that you can download for free to apply to your own school. You know, each school's so different, so do have a look at and see what's relevant. I would like to also mention that Let's Go Zero is looking at becoming international at some point in the next couple of years. So keep an eye out for that, because we might be creating a global movement of schools' ambitions to net zero, zero carbon by 2030. So do keep an eye out for that. I've got one more question coming for you, Cheryl. So what types of schools can join Modeshift Stars, and is it only England, or is it a bit wider than that?
Any kind of school can join Modeshift Stars, any at all, and we work across the UK. So we've got schools in Scotland, Wales, and Ireland as well. So yeah, we're quite, you know, we cover all areas. I'll be truthful, I don't know about the rest of the world, but that is something I'm really happy to go back and investigate, and I can certainly feed that back to you, Suzanne, and perhaps share with this group. I will find out a little bit more, but there is no barriers in who can take part, certainly. And my experience has been that I've worked with schools with all kinds of different backgrounds, independent schools and schools within trusts and SEN schools. So there's never been a restriction on that. Everybody is always welcome.
Oh, amazing. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you. Janet, I'm going to invite you back in now as well, if that's okay. We've got another question for you that's come in.
Okay.
So Janet, how much time do you think needs for a member of staff to effectively green their travel to or work journey to school? You know, do you throw a ballpark figure, or you know, what's from your own experience?
You see, that is a tricky one. I'm part-time. I work every morning and all day Friday, and so I have the luxury of having space in my day to do these extra meetings with the ATAs. Quite often it's done in my own time. So if I was a full-time teacher, you know, it'd be different, but it does take quite a lot of time. We tend to do one big initiative a term and keep the other things ticking over. So we'd have maybe a couple of meetings to organise that each term of about 20 minutes or so, and then we'd organise assemblies and things like that. So it's probably, I don't know, a few hours a term, and then there are other things that are a bit bigger which will take more than that. So it depends. It needs non-contact time to be able to do it justice, and so that obviously depends on your school and the support you're getting for it.
And do you find that initially it took a bit more time to sort of set up all the projects and schemes, and now you can just repeat them? Is it easier now that once you've done it the second and third and fourth year sort of thing?
I think probably it does, yeah. I think so long ago when we first started it, but yeah, we probably had a bigger team working on it then as well. It's probably just me keeping it ticking over now, but initially, and I think that is really important, if you have more than one of you on the team, then you can take on different roles. Modeshift, you know, you have to put in a lot of data, you have to upload evidence in there. That takes time as well. So that's totally separate to doing and delivering the initiatives. You have to then have evidence for them and put them onto the Modeshift site. So having support with that is really excellent. It has to be also taken into consideration. But I suppose those early days, I would say it was easier because I had a team around me. So I can't emphasize that enough.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think what's the saying? Many hands make light work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So definitely getting a full team behind you is great.
And especially across the school community, so have governors and parents, as well as staff on that team. We've got the caretaker is very much supportive of all the work we do. So that's another person who's always been on our team. So it's really good.
Amazing. And do you feel that working on air quality and you know, introducing active and sustainable travel has created more awareness around climate action broadly in your school, so raising the profile of the climate crisis?
Yeah, I think so. It certainly goes very much alongside that. So it's always something, there's an awful lot of curriculum time children spend on the climate emergency, and I think transport is always part of that, and they will make those links across those two things. We always do Clean Air Day, and within Clean Air Day we do all sorts of different aspects. Like this Clean Air Day, we had someone set up a shop with zero packaging because it was Clean Air Day, but it was organised by, you know, the active travel people. So yeah, it's all very much dovetails into each other, and the children see that connection, I think.
No, definitely. No, thanks, Janet. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Cheryl, I have another question for you, if that's okay. So we've got, I suppose, reflecting on your own local authority experience, is how can working with the local authority, how can schools be supported? Do you think there's a benefit in your school reaching out to their local authority and asking for that sort of support?
I mean, in my former role, I was the road safety manager for Newcastle City Council. So I used to have schools come and ask me for support and help. And the first direction I would point them in is to do their travel plan, because then it was a body of work. It was a process to go through that we could then present to senior officers to say, right, this is what the issue is, this is what we've identified, and this is what we want to do it. And the political will behind that is really powerful, and getting those right people on board. And it was something we could sell to ward members. You know, it would address complaints that were perhaps coming in from residents, so you'd work with the engineers, and it made it a much more tangible thing to address rather than just another complaint or somebody asking for something for nothing. It showed partnership working. It showed consideration for the bigger picture and the other aspects of sustainable travel. And it showed what schools were willing to do, as well as what the local authority were required to do. So it really drew everybody into this partnership in the middle. And that's where school travel plans really can come into its own. And it applies a level of, the local authorities are probably not going to like me for saying this, but a level of pressure for them to then action it, because it's a formal document that's been produced, as it were.
Yeah, no, definitely. So you'd definitely suggest travel plan is the step one, and then approach the local authority with how you can progress it together.
But speak to your road safety teams and your sustainable transport teams within your local authorities, because in my experience, that's where all my colleagues that I've ever worked with, that's where they sit, and there will be somebody who is looking into things like that.
Yeah. No, definitely. No, amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
A couple more questions for you, Cheryl, just before we will slowly come to an end, because I realise we're approaching 5 o'clock very quickly. We've heard a lot from Janet, who's in a primary school, but I was wondering if there's much difference between secondary and primary schools in terms of their barriers. And just a second follow-up question I've just seen come through is, can someone who's part of a sixth form college take part in Modeshift Stars as well?
Yeah, very quickly for the sixth form college, yes, definitely. There's definitely a role there and a process to go through with Modeshift Stars, and we can support you with that as well. So yes, sixth form colleges definitely can do that. In terms of, oh, sorry, Suzanne, can you repeat the first part of the question?
Is there much difference between secondary and primary schools, their barriers, how they can approach active travel?
Absolutely, a world of difference. Primary schools, they have got more flexibility within the curriculum. They've got less demand on where they have to fit in lessons and things like that. And it's much stricter in secondary schools than it is in primary schools. However, having the right person in a primary school or in a secondary school is key. Independent travel is a big thing for secondary school pupils. Quite often, by the time they get to secondary school, which is year 7, isn't it really? Children are really, off you go to school now. And the schools tend to be a lot further away than where their primary school was. So you've got more bus journeys, you've got more independent travel, they're perhaps walking further, potentially cycling further. So it's a great area where we really need to expand. And that's why we've got our new ATA programme, because that is empowering secondary school pupils to come up with their own transport plan, their own ideas. So yeah, there are definitely differences, and it is a more challenging environment, but one that's so worthwhile, which is why we're pursuing it now.
Yeah. No, amazing. Thank you, Cheryl. And Janet, I can see you want to come in here quickly.
No, it was just quickly. I felt I hadn't mentioned the support I have from the county, the active travel team at the county. They're amazing, and they're always there, and they come and do road safety training and all sorts of support in all sorts of ways. So I felt I hadn't mentioned that enough. That's all.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. Thank you, Janet, for that last little snippet. Thank you so much, Janet and Cheryl. I think we're on 5 o'clock on the dot. So I'll just draw it all to a close. And thank you so much for coming and talking to us and presenting some amazing ideas for how to get a school started, how to engage with staff and students, as well as the parents and wider community, and how, you know, it's time well spent to invest in active and sustainable travel with your students and your staff. Thank you everyone for your questions, and thank you for joining us today as part of London Climate Action Week, but also our wider Let's Go Zero webinar series. And if your school hasn't already, sign up to the pledge of Let's Go Zero 2030. We're calling on the government for support and funding to get all schools in the UK to zero carbon by 2030. We believe we can do it. We just need that support, that correct support. And please do reach out to us, Google us, Let's Go Zero. And yeah, more than happy to answer questions and take ideas for our next set of webinars.